Alright, today we're going to do our follow-up lesson on GoMath 12.1. So a lot of good scores yesterday. Some of the common mistakes we're going to go over quickly here. Alright, so this was on that practice page. We had to figure out what our units were that we were counting by. And so this is what you guys have to do whenever you see a problem like this, and you're going to see it again in 6th, 7th, or 8th grade. Alright, you're going from 0 to 1, but you have lines in between. So that becomes a fraction. All right, how many units are in between 0 and 1 you would count? So it would be 1, 2, and then 3. And so that is what you're moving now, left and right, and we're counting by 1/3. And so depending on how many you're moving, you would count by 1/3, or you multiply it by, and you just change the number on the top, and you can keep it an improper fraction. And don't forget, when you're going to the left, C should have a negative number on top, right? So we went over 1, 2. That should be a negative 2/3 x coordinate, and then positive 1/3 y coordinate. Some of you guys aren't getting those negatives in all the time, so please be careful. And then the other big question there was point F. All right, so a lot of you guys for point F, you just gave one number. And so it wasn't right for some of you guys because you weren't using 1/3, but let's say that you were, and this is what some of you guys would have said. So either negative 1 2/3 or negative 5/3, and you just left one number. That's not correct. The coordinate has to have two numbers. So the question is, which one are you missing, the first one or the second one? And this is the vocabulary of the lesson is you have to know what the origin is. That's 0, 0. That's your starting point, okay? If you're going straight down, that means you're only using that number. So what happens to this? It stays the same. And so 0 should have been your x-coordinate for that one. All right, so please be careful anytime you're on the y-axis. All right, you're going to be going over 0, so your x-coordinate would be 0. Anytime you're on the x-axis, all right, notice how you're going up and down 0, so that would have a 0 in the second number, not the first. So please, again, guess and check if you need to, and make sure it makes sense before you submit your work. All right, so more practice today. All right, so what you're going to do at the first part, again, is find out what the number or what the letter is, the coordinates. Take a look at your scale now. All right, what do you have in between? You're going from 0 to 4, so you have to see how many are in between, and there's 1 in between there. So if you were skip counting, what would that be? All right, there's 2 units in between 0 and 4, so of course you would divide by 2 to figure out what that would be. So please be careful there, and then down below you are going to plot the points. All right, remember, X is across, Y is up and down. Please be careful. Don't make any silly mistakes on that. Right, and the last part, and this is a very realistic type of problem because as you guys get older, you're going to be making more and more graphs. You have to think now what your range needs to be. All right, so take a look at all those numbers there. All right, this is where your times tables come into play because you should recognize that all of those numbers have a factor of 3. All right, so you could use 3 as your starting point, but this is technically the best way to do it is to always try to extend the graph to do is the full amount of lines as possible. Then you would see how many different lines that you have. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So you have 7. So if you're counting by 2, all right, so it would be 7 times 2, and that gets you to 14. All right, that does not get you there. All right, so that's not a good number to use, so you should use 3 for your unit for that one. And then how about this one? All right, it's the same number again. All right, so if we're counting by 1s, we're not going to get there, but if we count by 2s, all right, we would get to 24 at the edge of all of these different numbers, and that is going to definitely get me to 18 and negative 12. All right, so that's how you would determine that, is always figure out the number that you have going across or up and down, and then think about what your possible range would be. If you're counting by 2s, that's what it would be. If you're counting by 3s, 12 times 3 is 36, way too big, of course. But if you counted by 1, it would only get to 12, and that doesn't fit all the numbers that you have. Then for your last section here, what they want you guys to do is to use your points now, follow the directions, all right, and then they want you to figure out what point it would be at. And then our last problems here, kind of enrichment problems, what they want you to do is plot the points And then form a right triangle. All right, so a little geometry review. A right triangle has that right angle. It has that perfect L shape. So depending on where that is on your shape, I'm not going to graph them for you because I don't want to do the work for you. But it would be in some form like that. It needs to have that right angle, and then you connect the points to make it like that. All right, so good, a little challenging problem there. Submit both of these to me. Any questions, let me know, and we'll have this lesson wrapped up after today.